Welcome to Course Mapping and Sequencing, where we look at strategic planning for learner progression. In this session, we'll explore how intentional content flow, prerequisite planning, and scaffolded support guide students from basic concepts to mastery, and I'll walk you through a practical framework for designing coherent pathways that actually help learners advance. This slide gives a quick roadmap of what we'll cover: core course design principles, backward design, instructional models, pathway structures, scaffolding strategies, and assessment for optimization. Think of this as the map for our conversation so you can see how each section builds on the last to create an integrated approach to learner progression. This section introduces the foundations of course design, focusing on core principles and learning progressions. We'll unpack why clear learning trajectories matter, how to sequence skills so students build on prior knowledge, and what design choices prevent cognitive overload while promoting steady, measurable growth toward mastery. Here we examine the architecture of learning, starting with learning progressions and prerequisite chains that define stepwise development. The slide also highlights the balance between challenge and support, showing how appropriately timed guidance helps learners move from foundational skills to independent mastery, and why research supports both common pathways and individualized adjustments. This page summarizes 6 key design principles that guide effective course mapping: progressive learning, scaffolded support, objective alignment, evidence-based tracking, flexible pacing, and integrated assessment. These principles work together to create clarity for learners, prevent overload, and enable continuous improvement, turning isolated activities into a cohesive learning architecture. Now we shift to backward design, a framework that starts with the end in mind. The main idea is to define desired learning results first, then determine what evidence will show mastery, and finally plan learning experiences that prepare students for those assessments, ensuring alignment between goals, instruction, and evaluation throughout the course. This slide outlines the 3-phase backward design process: identify desired results, determine acceptable evidence, and plan the learning experiences that lead to those outcomes. Practical examples show how assessments and projects reveal understanding, and the key advantage is alignment. Starting with clear goals helps avoid mismatched activities and makes learning more relevant for students. Here we turn objectives into outcomes, using Bloom's taxonomy as a guide, moving from remember and understand up to create and evaluate. The slide also explains how to write effective, student-centered objectives that are measurable and actionable, and why transparent goals matter for motivation, self-assessment, and stronger performance. We now introduce instructional design models as systematic approaches to course development. Models help teams plan, prototype, and document learning experiences, and choosing the right approach depends on project scope, timeline, and the need for iteration versus thorough planning. We'll compare common frameworks to help you pick what fits your context. This slide compares ADDIE and SAM to help you choose a design approach. ADDIE is a linear, systematic process suited to large, well-defined projects, while SAM uses rapid cycles and prototyping for iterative development. The comparison highlights when stability and documentation matter versus when speed, testing, and continuous feedback are the priority. Learning pathway architectures present different ways to organize curriculum, from linear ladders to thematic tapestries, tiered towers, role-ready routes, and project-powered paths. Each structure serves distinct goals, whether mastery of prerequisites, deep dives into topics, career alignment, or problem-based learning. So pick the architecture that best matches your learning objectives and context. This section on scaffolding strategies frames support through Vygotsky's zone of proximal development, showing how temporary guidance helps students perform tasks they can't yet do alone. The goal is to provide optimal challenge with diminishing support, enabling learners to internalize skills progressively until they achieve independent mastery. The zone of proximal development slide explains 3 zones: tasks learners can do independently, tasks achievable with guidance, and tasks that are currently out of reach. The sweet spot for growth lies in scaffolded tasks within the ZPD, and identifying each student's zone requires observing independent and assisted performance and adjusting support accordingly. Here we cover the gradual release model, I do, we do, you do, which moves instruction from explicit teacher modeling to collaborative practice and finally independent application. This approach reduces cognitive overload, builds confidence, and provides checkpoints for feedback, allowing teachers to pull back support as students demonstrate readiness for autonomy. This slide lists practical scaffolding techniques like mini-lessons and chunking, exemplars and models, graphic organizers, multiple representations, vocabulary pre-teaching, and clear rubrics. Each technique helps break complex skills into manageable parts, making expectations visible and supporting diverse learners across contexts from K-12 classrooms to workplace training. Now we introduce competency-based progression, a shift from seat time to demonstrated mastery. The model centers on learners advancing when they prove skill competency, allowing personalized pacing and real-world demonstrations. Competency-based systems aim to close gaps, increase relevance, and ensure that credentials reflect actual ability, not just time spent in class. The competency-based learning framework contrasts traditional time-based approaches with competency-centered design, emphasizing clear expectations, meaningful assessment, individualized support, and flexible pacing. The slide also outlines a roadmap from baseline assessment to progress tracking and recognitions, explaining why this approach better prepares learners for applied, real-world demands. This page focuses on designing personalized learning pathways by identifying gaps, curating targeted resources, mixing modalities, and aligning goals to aspirations. Practical application matters. Every learning activity should connect to real-world tasks, include hands-on practice, and provide immediate feedback, while technology can scale personalization through diagnostics and adaptive content. Assessment and optimization begins with using data for continuous improvement. This section frames assessment as more than grading. It's a tool to diagnose learning trajectories, tune content sequencing, and target scaffolding. We'll explore how ongoing measurement helps refine courses so learners progress efficiently and reliably toward mastery. Data-informed optimization emphasizes cognitive diagnostic models, learning analytics, item response theory, and cluster analysis to reveal fine-grained differences in student understanding and common progression patterns. The slide highlights key metrics to track, like completion rates and mastery indicators, and shows how evidence drives targeted optimization actions, like reordering objectives or redesigning assessments. Implementation best practices span planning, development, and continuous improvement phases. Start with clear outcomes. Map prerequisites. Engage stakeholders. Build assessment checkpoints. Ensure alignment, and iterate based on analytics and feedback. The slide also calls out common pitfalls to avoid and success indicators that show your course is helping learners achieve real-world competency. In closing, this final slide frames designing for success as intentional learning architecture, purposeful design, clear pathways, and scaffolded support together transform passive content delivery into guided progression. Start with the end in mind, design with purpose, and support every step so learners move confidently from their current state toward genuine mastery.